but for the most part, E.T.'s a pretty perfect movie. So
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good film.
movie.
The soul behind the lens. Steven Spielberg's 6 favorite films. I dream for a living. That's what Steven Spielberg once said. Not about money, not about fame, about the act itself. The man who gave us childhood wonder, who made us believe a bicycle could fly, who taught us that sometimes the most terrifying thing is what you don't see. He didn't invent cinema, but he understood something most filmmakers never do.
There's no limit to my imagination, but there's a limit to how I can act upon my imagination. It's just humanly impossible to make all the movies that I would like to make in my lifetime.
He understood that movies aren't just entertainment, they're mirrors. And if you want to know who Steven Spielberg really is, you don't study his films. You study the films that made him. Because what a master loves reveals everything. In 2012, during a rare intimate interview, Spielberg was asked a simple question. What are your favorite films? Not the ones he made, the ones he needed. He named 6, each one a window, not into Hollywood, into the boy who grew up lonely in suburban Arizona, into the artist who spent his whole life searching for connection. This isn't a list of great movies. This is a map of a soul. Let's follow it. Number 6. Lawrence of Arabia.
Come on, man!
The dream of scale. It begins with emptiness, a vast golden emptiness. 1962. 16-year-old Steven Spielberg sits in a Phoenix movie theater. He's alone. His parents are fighting again. Divorce is looming. And then, he sees it. A dot on the horizon. Growing. Becoming a man. Lawrence of Arabia didn't just show Spielberg what cinema could look like. It showed him what it could feel like. David Lean's masterpiece is about a man searching for identity in an impossible landscape. A misfit. An outsider. Sound familiar?
Only 2 kinds of creature get fun in the desert. Bedouins and gods, and you're neither.
Spielberg has spent 50 years chasing this feeling. The ambition, the scope, the audacity of scale. But here's what most people miss. Lawrence of Arabia isn't about spectacle. It's about loneliness. And every Spielberg film, no matter how big the dinosaurs or how bright the aliens, is about someone trying not to be alone. Lean taught him that big movies can carry small truths, that you can show the whole world and still make one person feel seen. Number 5. It's a Wonderful Life. The Power of Belief, 1946. A man stands on a bridge. He's about to jump. And then, an angel intervenes.
Look, who are you?
I told you, George, I'm your guardian angel.
Spielberg has said that It's a Wonderful Life is the film he's watched more than any other. Not because it's cheerful, because it's honest. Frank Capra understood something devastating. Good people suffer. They sacrifice. They give. They try. And sometimes, the world doesn't care. George Bailey never leaves his hometown, never gets to travel, never builds his skyscrapers. He's trapped by duty, by love, by responsibility, but he stays.
Get me back to my wife and kids! Help me, Clarence, please! Please!
Spielberg's heroes are always caught between two worlds, the world they have and the world they dream of. Elliot wants to keep E.T., Oscar Schindler wants to save more people. Jim in Empire of the Sun wants his childhood back. Capra showed Spielberg that the greatest adventure isn't escape, it's connection. It's realizing that the people around you are the miracle. And maybe that's why Spielberg keeps making movies about families. Broken ones, lost ones. Ones trying to find each other again. Because, like George Bailey, he learned that sometimes staying is the bravest thing you can do. Number 4. A Space Odyssey.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
1968. Stanley Kubrick releases a film with almost no dialogue, no clear narrative, no easy answers, Hollywood thinks it's a disaster. Spielberg thinks it's a revelation. A Space Odyssey is a film about evolution, about mankind reaching towards something it cannot understand. But for Spielberg, it was about something else. This is where Spielberg learned restraint, the power of not showing. In Jaws, you don't see the shark for the first hour. In Close Encounters, the aliens are shadows and light until the very end. In Schindler's List, the greatest horrors happen off-screen. Kubrick showed him that cinema isn't about information, it's about experience.
Was sometimes antithetical to the way we are accustomed to receiving stories.
But here's the deeper truth. Kubrick made cold films, intellectual, detached, brilliant. Spielberg makes warm films, emotional, intimate, human. 2001 gave him permission to be ambitious, but it also taught him what he didn't want to be. He saw the infinite and chose to focus on the individual. Because what good is evolution if you lose your humanity along the way? Number 3, The Grapes of Wrath.
Then what, Doc?
Then it don't matter.
Witnessing Suffering, 1940. John Ford adapts Steinbeck's American tragedy. A family loses everything, and walks, and keeps walking. Spielberg first saw The Grapes of Wrath as a teenager. He didn't fully understand it then, but he felt it. This is the film that planted a seed, a question that would haunt Spielberg for decades. What do you do with power, with influence, with a camera?
I try to run a John Ford film, 1 or 2, before I start every movie, simply because he inspires me.
For most of his career, Spielberg made escapism, adventures, fantasies, wonders, and there's nothing wrong with that. But The Grapes of Wrath whispered to him, you can do more. In 1993, he made Schindler's List. Not for money, not for Oscars, because John Ford taught him that some stories must be told, even when they hurt, especially when they hurt.
Thinking of home. I ain't never gonna see it no more.
The Jode family is destroyed by systems too big to fight. But they fight anyway. Not with weapons, with dignity. Spielberg learned that witnessing suffering is sacred, and that sometimes the most important thing a filmmaker can do, simply say, I see you. Number 2, Sunset Boulevard.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures, used to be big.
The Price of Illusion, 1950. Billy Wilder makes a horror film, not about monsters, about Hollywood, about what happens when you confuse love with fame, when you mistake the spotlight for the sun. Sunset Boulevard is grotesque, beautiful and grotesque. It's about a silent film star who can't accept that the world has moved on. She lives in a decaying mansion, watching her old films, alone. Spielberg has never made a film about Hollywood. Not really. And maybe that's because Sunset Boulevard scared him.
Those imbeciles. Haven't they got any eyes? Have they forgotten what a star looks like?
Wilder showed him the danger, the seduction of believing your own myth, of thinking the camera loves you. It doesn't. It's just a machine. And maybe that's why, after 60 films, Spielberg still feels like he has something to prove. Not to us, to himself. Because the moment you think you've made it, it's the moment you're already gone. Number 1. The Best Years of Our Lives.
She's burning up! Get out! Get out!
Wake up!
Coming Home, 1946. William Wyler makes a film about soldiers coming home. But it's not about victory. It's about loss. About realizing that the war didn't end when the fighting stopped. The Best Years of Our Lives is 3 hours long. Almost no action. Just men, trying to remember who they were. And failing. Spielberg's father was a World War II veteran, a radio operator, a man who never talked about what he saw. And maybe that silence shaped everything. In 1998, Spielberg made Saving Private Ryan, the most realistic war film ever made. But it doesn't end with the battle. It ends with an old man at a grave asking, "Am I a good man?"
Tell me I'm a good man.
Wyler taught him that heroism isn't glory, it's survival. It's carrying the weight of what you lived through. It's asking if you were worth saving.
We're dying for a very great, important, necessary cause.
And that was a noble thing to do.
And that was a noble thing to do then. It served its purpose. Those were propaganda films.
But Wyler also taught him something else. That after destruction, there can still be hope. Not the absence of pain, but the choice to try again. And maybe that's why Spielberg's recent films feel different. Quieter, more personal, more reflective, because he's finally come home. Not to a place, to himself. 6 films, 6 teachers. David Lean showed him scale. Frank Capra showed him belief. Stanley Kubrick showed him mystery. John Ford showed him responsibility. Billy Wilder showed him danger. William Wyler showed him home. But here's the pattern. Every single one of these films is about someone trying to find themselves. Lawrence in the desert, George Bailey on the bridge, the astronaut reaching toward the infinite, the Jodes walking toward survival. Norma Desmond is trapped in the past. The soldiers are searching for peace. Spielberg didn't become the greatest blockbuster director of all time by accident. He became it because he never forgot what movies made him feel. Lost, lonely, searching, and for 2 hours, found. So here's the question. What are your 6 films? Not the best ones, not the most acclaimed, the ones that changed you, the ones that made you feel less alone. Because in the end, that's all any of us are doing, searching for the light. And sometimes, we're lucky enough to share it. If this made you see Spielberg differently, let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the souls of great artists, you know what to do.